The mic is hot. The tea even hotter. This is Liv On Air. Okay, hi gorgeous, hello handsome. Is anyone still here actually? Because first of all, I know I've been gone and I don't be like, oh yeah, I've been posting in 2 weeks. No, girl, I've been gone. And I just checked and my last episode was actually in November of 2025. And it is now, well, clearly a different era. And honestly, if you had told me when I recorded that last episode that it would be, almost a year before I come back, I probably would have laughed at you because I genuinely didn't plan on disappearing. I really did not. And it wasn't some big, dramatic decision where I sat down and said, you know what? I'm going to leave the internet. Goodbye, people. No, I think I just stopped. And I think that's actually what makes it really, really interesting because when I look back at, my last episode and what I was talking about burnout. I was talking about, juggling multiple jobs, about self-doubt. And I think I was also talking about feeling like I had to do everything and it's also learning to be soft with myself. And when I look back, in hindsight, I think in a weird way that episode was the beginning of me realizing that I couldn't keep living my life at a pace that my mind, body, and spirit could not sustain. So I did something that for me at least is quite difficult. And so I just stopped. I didn't realize how long the stopping would last. At first I thought I'll be back in a few weeks. I really did. I won't even lie. And then it was, okay, maybe next month I'll be back. And then it was, okay, no, 100% next quarter. I'll be back next quarter. And then before I knew it, it was more a thing of, I'll come back when I feel ready. And honestly, that was a problem because I kept waiting to feel ready. And I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but like when you say, I'll do it when I'm ready, it's like, that's honestly the most convincing form of procrastination because you can make it sound so healthy. You can make it sound so mature, so intentional, I'm just waiting for the right time. I'm protecting my energy. I'm taking time for myself. And sometimes you really are. But other times you're just scared. Sometimes you're overwhelmed. Sometimes you've probably, outgrown something and you're not sure what the new version looks like yet. And other times I guess you're just tired. But I think I was a combination of all four. I will not lie. I was a combination of all four. I was tired, I was overwhelmed, I was changing, and I was scared to come back and realize that I had changed so much that I didn't know what I was supposed to say anymore because the person who recorded that last episode was still me, but she's not exactly the same me sitting here today. And I think that's one of the weirdest things about growing up. You can go to sleep one night and wake up and realize, wait, I don't think I want the things I wanted 6 months ago anymore. And then you're sitting there like, okay, now what? Because I think we're told to be so committed to our plans. You choose a career, you choose a degree, you start a business, you create a podcast, you build a brand. And then everybody expects you to just keep going on or keep going in a straight line forever. But life does not work like that. Sometimes you have to stop. Sometimes you have to change directions and sometimes you actually have to start again. And if you know me, I am not afraid of starting over. Actually, I think I might be a little too comfortable with starting over. I think that might be a bad thing. I don't know because I will wake up one day and be like, guys, hear me out. I have an idea. And I know that everyone around me is just immediately going to think, oh my God, here we go again. But I genuinely believe that there's nothing wrong with starting over when the thing you're building no longer feels like you. And that's actually how we got here because I have an announcement to make. Drum roll, please. Okay, maybe we don't get drum rolls, but we are rebranding. Okay. I know this is like the second time we're rebranding, but hear me out, right? Because why not? If you know me, if you really, really know me, I am constantly evolving. And I think sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to get things right the first time, to get the perfect name, the perfect brand, the perfect career, the perfect business, the perfect life plan. But what if the first version was just that? the first version. Because I mean, you are allowed to revise. You're allowed to edit. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to say, you know what? I actually don't like this anymore. And so, you know, we've moved away from the Off the Script podcast, and we are now officially Live On Air, and I love it. I actually really love it. This was one of the suggestions I received from you guys, actually. And the moment I saw it, I was just like, wait, that's it. Yep, that's the name. And I think it fits this chapter of my life so much better, because Off the Script was very, I would say, a little bit heavy for me. And was also very much about not having a plan. Not necessarily a plan, but not following a plan. And I think with Live On Air, it feels more like me. It feels a little bit lighter. It feels like this is my voice, you know, this is my space. This is the way I come to talk to you guys, to think, to question things, to figure things out, to tell you what I'm learning. And sometimes, honestly, I won't even lie to tell you what I absolutely have no idea about. Actually. So, welcome to Live On Air, the rebrand. Again. But here's the thing. The rebrand wasn't actually the thing that brought me back. Coming back has been sitting in my heart for a very long time. And I just kept ignoring it. Or maybe not ignoring it. I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't ready. But this past month, something interesting just kept happening. People just started mentioning it. Not aggressively, I wouldn't say it wasn't like all up in my face. Like, nobody was holding me hostage and saying things like, dude, you better upload a video or an episode. No, it was more like these little comments I get where there'll just be things like, Liv, you've been gone for way too long, or, you know, you need to come back. When are you bringing the podcast back? When are you uploading content? When are you filming content and like posting? And I just kept thinking, oh my gosh, okay, I hear you. And then, I received a message that honestly made me so emotional, and I think that was kind of like the cherry on top, and I'll read it out to you guys. Let me just find it. Okay, cool. The message said, I am always journaling about how you motivated me to start expressing myself on social media, and not seeing your post is weird. I am a product of your goals and all that, you know. I'm out here like an orphan. First of all, what do you mean you're out here like an orphan? Girl, please. But genuinely, that message meant so much to me, because sometimes you forget that people are actually listening. And yeah, I think especially when you're creating something online, you're sitting in your room, you're talking into a microphone, you're posting something, and you're thinking, I mean, is anybody even watching this? Is anybody listening to this? Is anybody even paying attention? And then somebody comes along and tells you that, you know, something you did encourage them to express themselves, that something you said became a part of their journey, that, you know, they started doing things because they watched you do them, and you're like, oh, you were there, you were watching, you were listening, you were taking notes. And I think that responsibility is something I personally don't take lightly, because I never want to come on here and pretend that I have everything figured out. I don't. I really don't. I am figuring things out just like everybody else. And sometimes I'm giving advice, and then 5 minutes I'm like, maybe I should be the one taking my own advice right now. But I think that's what I love about this space. I don't have to be perfect, to be honest. And I don't have to have arrived to share my journey with you guys. So to everyone who's been waiting, to everyone who's, you know, checked in, to everyone who's asked me when I'm coming back, to everyone who's listened to an old episode, to everyone who's sent me a message, everyone who's, you know, encouraged me. I just want to say thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much, and thank you for your patience. And most importantly, thank you for allowing me to take the time that I desperately needed. I think I'm ready, or at least I'm ready enough, and readily so. And maybe that's the lesson, actually. Maybe we don't have to wait until we're, 100% ready. Maybe sometimes we just have to be ready now to take the first step. So I'm back, and I'm excited, I'm nervous, and I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, which is very on brand, by the way. Let's talk about today's topic, because I think it's actually quite fitting for my first episode back, calmness versus peace. And I do want to start with a question, if you really just think about it. Because in all honesty, Is it really choosing peace if you don't feel at peace within yourself after choosing it? Just sit with that and think about that, because I think we throw around the phrase choose peace all the time. If somebody upsets you, oh, just choose peace. Someone disrespects you, oh girl, just choose peace. You don't want to have an uncomfortable conversation. Oh no, I'm just choosing my peace. And listen, dude, I believe in peace. I really do. But I think we've sometimes, confused peace with the absence of conflict. And those are not the same things, because you can have a completely calm room and still have chaos inside you. You can smile at someone while your heart is screaming. You can say, oh, it's okay, when it really isn't. You can forgive somebody and still be deeply hurt. You can stay silent and call it maturity when in reality you're just afraid of what will happen if you speak. And I think we need to be honest about that, because sometimes we're not choosing peace, we're choosing calm. And there's a difference. When you choose calm, you're trying to keep the environment stable. You don't want the arguments. You don't want the awkwardness. You don't want people to be upset with you. You don't want to disappoint anybody. So you sacrifice your feelings to keep everyone else comfortable. And from the outside, everything looks peaceful, but inside you're fighting yourself. You're angry. You're resentful. You're disappointed. You're questioning yourself. You're playing the conversations in your head. You're thinking about what you should have said. And then you wake up the next morning and do it all over again. And eventually the internal conflict starts to cost you. And I know this because I used to be a people pleaser. A serious one, by the way. And I could convince myself that I was being kind when actually I was just terrified of disappointing people. And I think there's a difference between being a good person and being a person who needs everyone to think they're good. Because those are not the same thing. Being a good person means you have compassion. You care about people. You consider how your actions affect others. By being a people pleaser, sometimes that just means you're willing to betray yourself just so somebody else can have a better experience, just so somebody else doesn't have to experience discomfort. And that's not sustainable. You cannot build a peaceful life by constantly abandoning yourself. And I think that's the part we don't talk about enough, because sometimes choosing yourself will make somebody else uncomfortable. Sometimes having boundaries will disappoint people. Sometimes saying no will make somebody else think you're selfish. Sometimes walking away will make somebody call you cold. And you have to be okay with that. Because you can be a good person and still say no. You can be kind and still say, I don't like the way you spoke to me. You can love somebody and still say, this relationship isn't healthy for me. You can love somebody or forgive somebody and say, you don't get the same access to me anymore. You can choose yourself without becoming a bad person. And before you decide to keep the peace for the sake of everyone else, I want you to ask yourself, what is this going to cost me? Not today, not tomorrow, but 6 months down the line, a year from now, 5 years from now. Because sometimes the decision that keeps everyone else comfortable today is the same decision that creates resentment in you tomorrow. And then you have to ask yourself, is this actually peace, or did I just delay the conflict? Because think about it, avoiding something doesn't always make it disappear. Sometimes it just makes it bigger. And I'm not saying you need to confront everyone and about everything. Please don't do that. Some things generally don't even are worth your energy. And that's another thing I've learned. Not every battle deserves your participation. Honestly, not every battle deserves your participation. Sometimes peace really does look like walking away. Sometimes peace looks like not responding. Sometimes it looks like letting somebody else misunderstand you. Or it can also just, look like saying, that's okay, I don't need to convince you. Because, that's exactly that. But there is a difference between walking away because you have peace and walking away because you're afraid to stand up for yourself. Only you know which one you're doing. Only you know which one you're doing. And that's where discernment comes in. I'm gonna go on a tangent here, because discernment. Some people say discernment, some people say discernment. Is it discernment or discernment? Anyways, I think we need to stop, giving blanket advice, always choose peace, without actually defining what peace means. And honestly, blanket advice is really, really dangerous in my opinion, but we'll talk about that another time, because sometimes peace is silence. Sometimes peace is rather silence. And sometimes peace is speaking. Sometimes peace is staying. Sometimes it's leaving. Sometimes it is forgiveness. And sometimes it is distance. Sometimes it's saying, I love you, but I can't keep doing this. And sometimes the most peaceful thing you can do is disappoint a person. And I know that sounds harsh, but just think about it. If someone is only happy with you when you're making yourself smaller, is their happiness really your responsibility? If someone only likes you when you're available 24/7, is saying no really selfish? If somebody, I think I need money, because why do I keep saying some money? But if somebody or if someone only respects you when you have no boundaries, is setting a boundary really the problem? I don't think so. And I want to be careful here, because I also don't want to believe that be selfish should be our default response. Especially as a Christian, I mean, we are called to love people, to serve, to give, to consider others, right? But I also think there is a difference between selfishness and self-abandonment. And maybe that's where, that's the balance I'm learning right now. Not to become selfish, but to become selectively selfish, because too much of anything ruins everything. There are moments when I put others first. There are moments when I need to put myself first. There are moments when I need to sacrifice, and others when I need to say, no, I cannot do that. And the wisdom is knowing the difference. So maybe instead of asking ourselves, how do I keep the peace? We should start asking, how do I protect my peace without unnecessarily taking somebody else's? Because I don't want to be someone who creates chaos in the name of boundaries. But I also don't want to be someone who destroys herself in the name of being nice. I want to be kind, I want to be loving, I want to be a very considerate person, but I also want to be honest. I want to be able to sleep at night knowing that I did not betray myself just to make somebody else comfortable. And maybe that's what I've been learning, during my time away, that peace isn't always going to look peaceful. Sometimes peace is extremely uncomfortable. Sometimes it requires a difficult conversation. Sometimes it requires a decision that nobody else understands. Sometimes peace requires you to disappoint people. Sometimes it requires you to let go of the version of yourself that exists solely to make everyone else happy. And maybe that's why I needed to come back when I did, because I spent a long time thinking that I had to wait until I was ready, until I had everything figured out, until I knew exactly what I wanted to say, until I had the perfect plan. And maybe I don't. Maybe I just need to start. Maybe I need to stop waiting for the perfect moments and trust that I can figure things out along the way. Because that's what love is. You figure it out, you change, you grow, you start again, you rebrand, and apparently you rebrand again. You keep going. So if there's one thing I want you to take away from today's episode, it's this. Don't confuse calmness with peace. Don't confuse the absence of conflict with the presence of peace. And don't sacrifice yourself just to keep everyone else comfortable. Before you choose to keep the peace, ask yourself what that decision is going to cost you in the long run. And if the price is your mental, emotional, spiritual, or even physical well-being, maybe that's not peace. Maybe that's just calm. And you deserve both. You deserve a life that is peaceful within you, not just peaceful around you. So welcome back to Liv On Air, and welcome back to me too. I don't exactly know what this chapter is going to look like, but I know I'm ready to find out, and readily so. But thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Same time, same place. Until then, let's keep it cute.